A lot of you have been wondering if the A's are a serious franchise. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think I'm personally in a position to weigh in on that, but I can tell you one thing. We're a serious podcast, and it's time to get serious about the A's.
The Oakland A's have touched 500. They nearly got over 500, and they fell back to 3 games under 500 after a couple of very run-heavy series against the Miami Marlins and the defending champion Texas Rangers. They have off today while we get a chance to breathe and recover after an exhilarating couple of games. I know we keep saying that we're going to see what the A's are made of, and I'm still not sure. They have heart, I think. That's all I can say.
I think they got some heart. I'm going to say they have some heart. It was a rough couple series on paper, but it didn't feel that way. And I think that's important to remember, is that there's a couple games that were very winnable that they lost here, even though there's a couple that definitely weren't very winnable that they lost as well. And yeah, the pitching faltered, but the hitting exploded. And we should definitely focus a bit on that, even though, of course, we're definitely going to talk about the bad pitching too.
Yeah, the A's are in a weird kind of state of flux where they just had some solid pitching coming into the Marlins series, and then it just truly just kind of fell apart a little bit here and there. We had some okay starts, some really bad starts. There's good, bad, and ugly in all of this. I think the best way to kind of pick this apart is to just get into our stars and lumps of coal.
Let's do it. We're a bad news first pod, right?
Yeah, last I checked, we were.
Okay, so I'll go first then. So I jumped the gun on naming a captain for the team, Will.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I named a captain a little too early, as immediately after naming Tyler Nevin captain of the A's, he went literally 0 for 20 and counting. So he's been so great, for most of the year up until this little 20, at-bat snag. And has been really solid at first base in particular, too, where I'm not concerned. I think we're due for a little run like this. Gave it 1 lump of coal. I don't think it's something to be overly concerned about. And still walking a bit, too. 5 at-bats, so technically 0 for 20, but still 25 plate appearances, 5 walks. So, yeah, just kind of had to get that out of the way quickly. Tyler Nevin, not a good stretch. 1 lump of coal for you. And also, wait, sorry, I am bearing the lead. He's no longer the captain of the A's. He's got to earn that back.
Nah, yeah, we gotta strip that off of him. Are we gonna name a new captain, or is this kind of like a vacant captain?
Keep watching, captaincy? Maybe you'll find out.
All right, I like that. My 1 star goes to backup catcher Kyle McCann, and I had really kind of went back and forth with a few different people on this, but there were some guys who were definitely deserving of this. But I wanted to give McCann a little bit of love in the pod today because he's really been finding a way to stick in the lineup as the backup catcher, and even seeing some time as the pinch hitter off the bench. He's basically only faced righties. I believe he has 1 at-bat against a lefty that didn't end up going anywhere. But this dude has mashed for an OPS of 1.3, as in like 1 point and the next place is a 3 in his last 7 games. His hitting StatCast isn't enough to see any kind of like true comparisons to the rest of the league yet, but we're seeing a lot of that faded red in Savant, which is definitely exciting. And Kyle McCann's been seeing a lot of red at the plate. His catching and framing metrics seem to have gotten slightly better. He seems to be either at average or slightly below average with his blocking and framing. Not bad for a rookie backup catcher who actually ended up beating out Soderstrom for the backup job.
Heck yeah. I'm looking here. Do you, off the top of your head, know how much of any other position other than catcher and DH that McCann's played?
I don't believe he has seen any time at any other position.
That's what I believe, but I was trying to make sure of that. Because if that's the case, then, like, why don't we do that? I'm a little curious right now as to, like, why we don't I mean, I would love to give him a shot in right field, left field, first base, or at least start to try to do that. I'd love to see a report that the A's are starting to work him out at first base or in left field or something like that, because his bat is just way too good to keep out of the lineup, even 1 out of every 3 days, let alone 2 out of every 3 days, which is what he's still averaging right now over the past few series. So I just think that, yeah, he's been unbelievable at the plate hitting, and we're like just trying to fit a round peg in a square hole right now, and trying to like continue to put him out there as a catcher. I just think that if he could play first base, left field, right field at a non-abysmal level, then he can actually really be an impact player for the A's. Where right now he's a good story and still a backup catcher. Do you agree with that at all, or?
Yeah, I think so. And him getting in the lineup should not come at the expense of sitting Shea Langoliers, because Langoliers has
Correct.
been, busting out in his own right. But yeah, it's just, if the bat is good, why take it to the bench when there are clearly other bats playing in the lineup that just aren't as strong, especially against righties. Now, I don't think that's to say that McCann is an everyday player at this point, but I think he should be seeing more time than he is.
I guess the question begs, like, I'm going to assume that Kotsay and everyone else that has a say in something like this, I'm going to assume that they know probably that he can't play first base, left field, right field. Usually when a guy struggles as a catcher, when you plug them at first base or any other position, they're not going to become a Gold Glover immediately. All the time that they've spent working on their craft as a catcher, as well as the fact that if they're not great defensively as a catcher, that usually means that they might not be a stud elsewhere either. But you just don't know. And I would just be curious to see a report like Kyle McCann, working out in left field or something like that, because there's too many guys that are getting consistent at-bats, as you allude to in the lineup, that aren't difference makers on either side of the ball, with their glove or with the bat, for a guy like Kyle McCann to play less than any of them. But again, that is if they've tried and they've gotten a look at that and they feel like he's going to come out there and look like Kyle Schwarber in the outfield and look like insert poor defensive first baseman here at first base, then I don't blame them for playing this the way they have. So yeah, I just wish there's more insight there from behind closed doors, but I don't know if we're gonna get any of that.
I'm a little bummed that you didn't mention Daniel Vogelbach in that as a comparison.
Oh, well, I don't know for a fact he's bad defensively. He probably is, but I'm the type of guy to not judge a book by its cover, Will. All right?
Judge a Vogelbach by its Vogel.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I'm not judging him by his Vogel any day of the week. I'm assuming he's bad, but who knows? But 2 lumps of coal. Are you ready for this one?
Oh, I am.
With a heavy heart, I'm gonna have to say my 2 lumps of coal are going to Lucas Erceg. Now, he had no clean appearances in his 2 appearances that he had over the past couple series, and it wasn't awful. He didn't give up an exorbitant amount of runs. I believe it was 4 earned over 2 appearances here. Yep, and but gave up probably the most heartbreaking hit of the season. That Corey Seager home run took the soul straight from my body, and I'm still trying to find it. So yeah, just unfortunately, he gave up just like I said, the biggest home run that we've seen in a while. And for that reason, almost that reason alone, I mean, it's only been 2 series here, so it's a pretty big blemish. Yeah, it's got to be Lucas Erceg here, 2 lumps of coal. And I don't feel any differently about him from when he was dominating. I do think that he was a little due to have, a Corey Seager hit a home run off of him eventually. But yeah, unfortunate that it came when it came, and hopefully he can settle back in here.
Yeah, well, I think it was also just really unfortunate for the vibe check as well, just because that was actually the streak. That's when the streak came to an end. The bullpen, I believe, riding into that game had a scoreless streak for about 30 plus innings, and that ended with that hit off of
what
of
a way to
Jose.
end it, right?
I know. And, sure, like Corey, you look at the other end of that and it's Corey Seager, World Series MVP and all that. So, like, if anyone's going to do it, it's Corey Seager, but still, it sucks.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I initially had Lucas Erceg as an honorable mention. And just thinking about it, I had a couple other people I was waiting for 2 and 1 lumps of coal. And all of them, it just felt like what they did wasn't, too meaningful or impactful compared to what other guys have done, where like, not all runs are created equal. Giving up 4 runs in a blowout game compared to giving up 1 or 2 in a really close game, not all runs are created equal. So I just felt like Lucas Erceg, it would have been a little bit of a stacking the deck and a little bias if I didn't kind of give him these 2 lumps here after how much we've been on his side this season. But again, as I said, I'm not worried. Just someone was eventually going to hit one of his pitches really hard, and it happened to be the World Series MVP.
That's baseball. It's a fickle.
That's baseball season.
Fickle, cruel sport sometimes.
Yeah, seriously. You got 2 stars?
I do, and I got it for the guy who just plays like Barry Bonds every time he faces the Texas Rangers. That's starting catcher Shea Langoliers. Now, this dude, I don't know if it's just like a hometown thing. He just like Popeye with his spinach. This guy just absolutely hammers when he plays against Rangers pitching. He's had 8 RBIs on the doubleheader day. He finished a single shy of a cycle in the first game. He's nearly a third of the way towards his RBI total from last season, and he's toward the top of the league in barrel percentage. Shea is just heating up. You know that like roller coaster emoji? That's Shea Langoliers right now because he's heating up. And it's
NBA
great.
Jam, he's heating up.
Yeah, and it's great to see that he's leading the A's catchers in hitting production, and some of that has rubbed off on Kyle McCann. I think that it's a bummer that in the last game of that Rangers series, I believe it was the last game of the Rangers series, there was a spot in the bottom of the 6th with bases loaded where he wasn't able to quite get them back into the game, even though they made it close in the 9th. But
yeah,
that doesn't take away from the fact that he's actually tied with Brent Rooker for the most RBIs and with Abraham Toro for the most hits in the last 7 games. I gave him legit consideration for 3 stars. Couldn't bring myself to do it, but if I could sprinkle like a little extra stardust on Shea Langoliers, I would.
2.5 stars.
That feels apt.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great 2 stars. Killer. I bet you if you were to stack up the A's production from the catcher position across every other team, and just like whoever started catcher and just compiling those stats for the year, who's ahead of the A's right now? I mean, there's a couple teams, and I haven't checked on how a couple guys are doing. Like, if you were to ask me how is JT Real Muto playing, I'd say probably well, but I don't know exactly how well he's playing. But the A's have to be top 5, I would think. And, like, that's a pretty unexpected blessing.
Well, I think even if, are you saying like just the starting catchers, or you're including like
yeah, like if you were to take the stats of whoever started at catcher, and not DH appearances, not pinch hit appearances, if you were to just, or you could even factor in pinch, just whoever who is currently playing catcher in a game, their hitting stats for those games, and not including if a guy switches to catcher, switches positions, wherever have you. So, I would just think that they're up there, top 5, at least top 8 or something like that. And
so I'm pulling this right now. I'm actually interested to see the comparison between JT and Shea. So JT has in 135 at bats. Okay, so he's got 37 hits, 5 homers, and he's got an OPS of 771. So compare that to Langoliers, who has 25 hits, 9 home runs, batting .212, and an OPS of 779.
All right, there you go.
So
that's
comparable. I mean,
that's
yeah.
Yeah.
Shea's got more homers. Real Muto's got more hits. Actually, more comparable than you'd think between the two.
Well, it's the OPSs are nearly identical.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's early in the year. It's also just 1 year as well. Like, you never know. But yeah, whenever your starting catcher is performing just about as well as JT Realmuto, the best one in baseball, you feel pretty good. And I would say that Langolier's fielding stats, well, of course, he's always going to struggle, at least this year, with the framing and blocking and some of that stuff. He more than makes up with it with the arm strength and his ability to gun down runners. So if they had like not too crazy different of, fielding samples thus far in the season, I wouldn't be surprised in that either. All to say, we are up on Shea Langoliers.
I think we always have been, but it's nice to see us get a little bit of love back from that.
Exactly. Cool. Yeah. No. Great 2 stars. Do you want to get into my honorable mentions?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I want to hear them.
Alrighty.
You said mentions, so that sounds like you got more than one.
Oh, do I? Get ready for the Comedy Central roast and Netflix roast of the Oakland A's pitching staff and primarily the bullpen, because it was rough, man. Like the bats were more on fire than we've ever seen this year, and they've had some really nice stretches of like winning a lot of games consecutively, and still this little rough stretch, I mean, we were on fire at the plate. So who was not on fire on the mound? Paul Blackburn. I'm just going to get him out of the way quickly because he's been so great for a lot of different portions of the year. Technically, the ERA is up over 4, which is, if he were to end the year with about a 4 ERA, we'd be stoked. And hopefully he can stay around there. Had one great start, 1 earned run over 7 innings, but then just the ugly, last Mariners game, 7 earned in 4 innings. So, not overly worried or concerned. It's a good Mariners lineup, even though the lower half of the lineup is what really got to him. We'll see. If he were to put together a couple bad starts in a row, we can talk more, is Blackburn losing it a little bit, but it was a bad start. Honorably mentioned you for some Cole Blackburn. And TJ McFarland, I'm excited to get into this a little bit. I don't know if there's another pitcher on the staff that just kind of makes me like sadder than when you mention TJ McFarland's name usually. There's nothing really to back that up. There's no reason for that. I apologize to TJ McFarland if he's listening, but I think it's just the lack of flash he has out there. He throws, I think it's the slowest fastball, 4-seam fastball in Major League Baseball at 87.5 miles per hour. If it's not the slowest, it's around the slowest. And 12 earned runs on average in the past couple appearances, mainly just one awful 4 earned in 1 inning appearance. But a lot of bad things I've said just now. Why is he an honorable mention and not actually getting Cole? Some people might wonder. The 4 runs he gave up didn't matter. They were in the blowout 9th inning, and nothing he really did in these 2 games mattered, fortunately or unfortunately for him. But I want to talk about just the numbers behind the numbers, if you will. No one's barreled any of his pitches in 2024 yet, and his expected slug against, which is just opponent slugging, when facing him, is .265 this year, which places McFarland in the top 4% of the league. And exit velocity against McFarland is 82.6 miles per hour, which puts him in the top 1% of the league. So those 2 stats combined, no one's slugging against him, no one's barreling anything, and no one's hitting anything fast and hard against him. Teams and players are just hitting little dribblers off him and little bloops seemingly, and no one can get the bat on the ball. The average launch angle against him is negative 0.6, which makes him one of the 10 guys that have a negative average launch angle against, which means that a player is far more likely to hit a ground ball or just hit the ball on the ground than hit the ball in the air in any capacity, a hit, a fly ball, a home run, whatever. So anyway, those are all incredible numbers that you'd usually find for like a Mariano Rivera or an incredibly good pitcher, not a guy who has a 5+ ERA. So all that to say, I would actually expect TJ McFarland for the numbers to start to follow the StatCast numbers, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out there, his next 8 appearances gives up only 2-3 earned runs or something like that. So keep your eyes on TJ McFarland. Get some Cole now, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was an honorable mention star not too long from now. And my last honorable mention, because I know this has all been a mouthful, is Joe Boyle. He got hurt in his one inning of work, so I'm not going to give him anything more than an honorable mention here. And also only gave up one hit, technically. It was a home run, a really big one, too. A lot of walks. Just as bad of a Joe Boyle inning as you can kind of see. And then he didn't get to continue because of the injury. So bad looking stats. Put the bullpen in an awful place for the rest of that game. I'm going to dishonorably mention him. I'm going to start calling it dishonorable mentions. Why have I been giving honor to these guys?
I was kind of starting to wonder that too. I mean, you're giving honor to a pitcher who his average. Well, I mean, he technically has only thrown one four-seamer. I guess his fastballs are so slow that they're considered changeups.
TJ McFarland.
Yeah, TJ McFarland.
Yeah. Well, it is it's the same speed as your normal I bet you Zach Wheeler's changeup is 89 miles an hour on average.
Well, that's faster than TJ McFarland's average changeup speed 80.4.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. So yeah, Joe Boyle. I also just love Joe Boyle. I can't get enough Joe Boyle usually. I won't kick him while he's down ever. He's kind of if I could name him the captain of the A's, I would, but I'm 0 for 1 so far. And we'll not do that while he's on the IL here. But gotta love Joe Boyle. If I'm ever going to be biased about a player, it's going to be Joe Boyle. I'll get that out of the way right now. So I hope when he comes back from the IL, whenever that should be, I hope that he can kind of lock back in, because he was locked in for a few starts here pretty recently.
Yeah, he was. But, yep, he's found his way to the IL, and that kind of leaves a bit of a vacancy at the 5th spot in the rotation. So we are going to definitely have to monitor how the A's handle that open spot. It seems to be a job that has been a bit of a revolving door. There isn't really a clear winner in that 5th spot yet, so we'll see. Last I heard, I assume Joe Boyle wasn't going to be out for too long.
It's a 15-day IL, so we'll see. You just never know with pitchers and upper body stuff.
That's fair.
I hope. I assume maybe he'll miss 3 starts, come back.
Well, get well soon, Joe Boyle, and hopefully you can find some of that command while you are resting up.
Yeah, I hope maybe just post-surgery, or he's not having surgery. Post-surgery, Jesus Christ, I don't want to manifest that. But, maybe after a workout or some rehab, he's just holding the baseball in bed, kind of figuring out what's the new grip he's going to dazzle these hitters with. How is he going to get these guys out next? I'd like to think that's the case. You want to honorably mention some guys?
I would love to honorably mention this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of I have a bunch of guys, but I'm just kind of I'm just going to rip through it just really quick. And I'll let you know when I'm done. I think it's probably best if I just kind of serve them all on the same platter. Some are kind of just mixed in there for shits and giggles, but I'm just going to kind of throw them in. So all right, here we go. Abraham Toro gets an honorable mention. He cooled off after a red-hot start to the week, but was still having a nice little hit streak going. He struck out only 3 times in the last week and has been quietly racking up hits. He also seems to be holding down the second base spot that was vacated by Zach Geloff, who is now on a rehab assignment in AAA. So we'll monitor that when Zach Geloff gets back. The next sampling on the platter of honorable mentions is the Shoe. Max Schumann, with Darrell Hernandez going on the injured list with an ankle injury that I'm amazed wasn't worse than how it looked. It looked really painful. Yeah. The Shoe is expected to see a ton of time at shortstop, and so far he has generally been up to the challenge. He had an absolutely sick lineout catch during the Rangers series. That was the main reason I wanted to give him that, because it was just a really cool out. He's had 5 hits and 18 plate appearances. He hasn't really done a ton of note at the plate, but I can imagine that he's going to keep seeing time at shortstop with Hernandez injured. Great time for him to kind of audition for that role. Alex Wood. Alex Wood actually pitched 6 solid innings in the first game against the Rangers. That was also the same game that Lucas Ursay gave up that heartbreaker. So that kind of marred what was a really solid Alex Wood start.
Cost him a star, probably, right? Probably gets a star if the A's win that game.
I think it would, yeah, and perhaps that's a bit of recency bias playing into that, but
no, it's good. Like Lucas Ursay, he's got to live with that now. I think that's fair.
If only we had a captaincy to strip him of.
Exactly. We should just name everyone captain, then take it away whenever we feel like they're not living up to it, and then see who's still a captain by the end of the year.
Darwinism with the A's.
Exactly. Man, continue.
So, Seth Brown, and this is kind of a funny one because I don't think we're seeing a Seth Brown comeback, but we might be, because Seth Brown managed to mash a 3-run dinger in the Rangers beatdown game. That's what I'm calling the second game of the Rangers series. We'll see what happens first, whether or not Seth Brown gets optioned to Las Vegas or has a bat resurgence. It's like when Chris Paul hit the huge 3 to cut the lead to 42. That was Seth Brown mashing that 3-run dinger. Maybe he's going to join Nick Allen.
Can I say something about Seth Brown quickly? Can I get something off my chest? He swung 3-0 in one of those Rangers games and got out, dribbled it over, pulled it. Under no circumstances should Seth Brown be swinging 3-0 in a count. He's the only guy to have done it on the A's this year and put the ball in play. He didn't get a hit, as I mentioned. Yeah, ugly. I did not like that. I don't think Seth Brown should ever swing 3-0.
Seth Brown never met a ball he didn't like.
I guess so, man. Hate to be a hater, but
it's okay. Seth Brown was more just kind of mixed in there for a little extra zest and goofiness. I don't.
Yeah, and then he caused straight from me. He can't escape it.
So Mason Miller, another game, another perfect inning for Mason Miller. 2 of them actually in his last game. His FIP, his field independent of pitching, I believe that's what that stands for, is negative. Absolutely crazy. This dude is the Thanos of pitching. He is inevitable. It's unreal what he's doing to games. The haul the A's are going to get for him in return is also going to be unreal. If we're going to have that conversation. I don't think we are. Maybe we will.
You mind if I just go over what Mason Miller's stats are the last 10 appearances?
Please do. I just need a little bit of juice to really fire me up for the rest of this.
11 in the third innings pitched. 25 strikeouts, 0 runs, 1 hit, 1 walk. I've never primed Chapman for a stretch, maybe for 11 innings, but I can't name a single guy, period, rotation, bullpen, whatever, that was ever putting up 11 innings, 25 strikeouts, 0 run, 1 hit, 1 walk type stretches. And it's early. Who knows? And who knows what team he's playing on by the end of the year. But God, he's fun to watch.
I'm going to write a really quick haiku off the dome for Mason Miller. So it's 575. Mason Miller. Shoot. Okay. Maybe just...
You really are doing it off the dome. Yeah, this is I can tell.
The A's closer, man, Mason Miller is very good.
You can't go use 2 lines, make 1 line to go over 2 lines like that.
Yeah,
man. They have to. You got to finish the thought after each line.
Number 9. Damn, these are all 4 syllables. Shit, this is actually a lot harder than I
Mason
thought.
Miller is a tough one. Mason Miller, because that's 4 syllables in itself. You got to get that in the second line. So how about wow, those A's are good. Mason Miller is I wanted to go awesome. That's
Miller 3. Fastballs are a killer. Miller fastballs are a killer. Miller
are just killer. Are killer.
Oh yeah, killer. Yeah, Miller fastballs are killer. No.
If
killer.
I told you all that we went to college, would you believe us?
No. I certainly wouldn't. All right. God damn, this is kicking our ass right now.
Wait, what do we have so far? We have to do this.
Mason.
No, we can't go Mason Miller.
No, we didn't
first.
oh my god, I have the memory of a goldfish right now.
Wow, those A's are good. Miller
fastballs are killer.
What? Wait. Miller fastballs are killer. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't count to 7 apparently. I forgot how to do that after I graduated.
Stay in school, please, kids.
Yeah. That's a good way to wrap this up.
All right.
That's our Mason Miller haiku.
There you go. Yeah. Can't sell that. It's trademarked.
You heard it here
Can't
first.
put it in your haiku books, everybody.
Yeah. Take it to the bank.
Take it to the bank.
Austin Adams is the next name I want to get to. So he's actually quietly been rock solid when called upon in what was a very up and down week for the rest of the A's bullpen. He gave up 0 runs and only 1 hit in his 3 trips to the mound. Batters have actually had a very hard time hitting hard against him. Weirdly enough, I guess kind of like TJ McFarland, he's towards the top of the league in lowest barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, and average exit velocity.
Man, I saw this earlier today. Like, I think he also has had no one barrel anything against him. I think his barrel percentage is also 0, like TJ, which would like make him and TJ 2 of the only pitchers in all of baseball with 60 batters faced to do that, which is nuts.
Definitely not what you would expect to see for that list of pitchers who have never had a battle.
It's literally them two and like Edwin Diaz. Like, yeah. Continue. I just think that's nuts.
And then my last one actually goes to Tyler Ferguson. So who's Tyler Ferguson? Well, we didn't know either, but he was actually the best pitcher in the game where Ross Stripling and Hogan Harris got bombed back to the goddamn Stone Age. Now that's not saying much, but having 2 scoreless innings to close out a game where the Rangers are absolutely mashing you all game is nothing to sneeze at. Happy debut for the 30-year-old rookie. 30 years old making his debut. So you know what? If Tyler Ferguson is able to hold the Rangers to 2 scoreless innings to close out a game where they're absolutely red hot at the plate, we can do something pretty cool before our 30s too, or maybe when we're 30. So there's hope for us yet.
You know, it's kind of crazy, all those, nearly a decade of just frustrating bus rides along America's northeast coast. Tyler Ferguson can now finally hang his hat on receiving an honorable mention star from the Funny Ball podcast.
And all he had to do was just not be worse than Ross Stripling and Hogan Harris.
Which, yes, what a bar to I mean, he cleared that bar.
He did. He cleared it.
Yeah.
Pole vaulted over it, I would
go
even say.
more into it, but he cleared it. That's for sure.
So that's the end of my
anything else?
No, that's the end of my honorable mentions. I'm ready to hear your 3 lumps of coal.
Yeah, I mean those are good. It's good to get the good stuff going there. I'll quickly slip in my 3 lumps of coal, then we'll get back to the good stuff. Ross Stripling, when you in a start accumulate a 27 ERA and a 7.20 WHIP and still gave up 6 runs that weren't earned, like that's rough, man. I wonder what that ERA and WHIP would look like if you incorporate all of those runs. That would have been rough.
10 of which came in the second inning, by the way.
Oh yeah, I mean, gave up that leadoff, home run to Simeon, first pitch of the game. You're thinking, oh my God, are we about to have one of those starts? Gets out of the first inning without anything else. Think, all right, gotta settle in now. No. Here's another 10 runs for you. Just rough. Got unlucky, of course. When you give up 11 runs, only 5 of them are earned. There are some errors that took place. One really awful one when they could have turned a double play potentially, or even, I don't know if a double play or just an out to get out of the inning at that point. But there is opportunities where Stripling could have had some help. He was not given the help. But with that being said, I mean, 10 hits and 11 runs, 5 earned, 2 walks, 1 home run in 1 2/3 innings. That's for real. And I had a hard time rationalizing giving anyone on this team more lumps of coal than him this week. And he came off his best start of the season easily too. So hopefully we can kind of get back there. He has shown that he can mow through a lineup, and I'd like to see him do it again soon. And yeah, I'm just looking if I have anything else here. I'm trying to sugarcoat it in any way I can, and I'm having a hard time.
I think the only way we can sugarcoat it is that we didn't see a full 2 innings from him in that game.
That's not sure. I don't know if that's sugarcoating it, but sure, I guess it is. At least for us, we didn't have to witness 2 full innings of that. It's concerning. I kind of left out maybe the biggest reason of why this start was big was coming off of the Joe Boyle game where he only got through an inning, and there's been a couple other pretty short-lived starts by some of these pitchers. You can't go out there and go through 1 2/3 as a guy that theoretically could be kind of an eating innings guy. You can't go out there, get 1 2/3 after that Joe Boyle start and just throw your bullpen to the dogs and make Mitch Spence, Kyle Muller, and Hogan and whoever else is in there right now, just stretch them beyond belief. It's not fair. And so yeah, that's why he's really getting 3 lumps. Is like, if nothing else, could you at least get us 4 innings in that game? And he couldn't even do that.
Yeah, and just with how the rest of the bullpen's been playing generally, it's rough to see that that what was kind of the ace calling card for the first month or so of the season just kind of became their downfall the last 2 series.
Yeah. And I feel like everyone and their mom saw this coming. Like, there's just some guys who are clearly performing a bit better than they should have been. A Paul Blackburn was due to have some bad starts, and after Joe Boyle settled in, we knew that there's probably a start like this coming down the pike somewhere. And it just puts a lot more pressure on these stars just to get some length when all the other guys are struggling. And Stripling's a guy I felt like could have done that in that game. At least just kept on working, maybe given up 8 earned runs in 5 innings or something like that. Not a good start, still probably losing the game, but at least you're not going to have to throw someone to the dogs like they did. So, yeah.
So every one of their moms saw the Stripling stinker coming from a mile away. I know. I'd like to think that my mom definitely saw that Ross Stripling was going to drop a stinker.
I actually got a text from my mom before the game, like, Ross isn't going to pitch well today, right? And I was like, don't say that, Mom. He might, but
no, moms just know everything. I think that's kind of
good instincts.
Yeah, moms know best. And happy Mother's Day from the Funny Ball Pod. That's the message that we're putting out.
Absolutely. Took the words right out of my mouth. Not, but I should have been saying that at some point. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Happy Mother's Day to my mother, and happy early Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Ross Stripling is the father of a pretty piss poor season ERA right now. But I think that he can raise that kid to become more of a 4.5 by the end of the year. That's my hope.
That was a beautiful analogy.
I tried my best there.
That was good.
Thank you.
We did go to college. We
did. I don't know. I don't know if
we,
if I was trying to prove that I went to college to someone. I don't know if I'd want to play that clip of what I just said just then. But
maybe we will. And we can't write a haiku to save our lives because we don't have 2 brain cells to rub together between the 2 of us. But gosh darn it, we can make an analogy and appreciate our mothers and fathers and Mothers and Father's Day.
Don't get me started about macroeconomics. All right.
I won't.
Got a mean A- in that class.
It's funny. I think when I took econ my senior year, we actually combined it in 1 year. We did, it was macro and then for the first half of the year, and then micro for the second half.
Are you talking college or high school?
No, it was high school. It was my senior.
I'm talking college, buddy. I'm college educated in economics now.
See, that's the difference between you and I. We are not the same.
Now, you might know more than me about macroeconomics, but I'm college educated, all right? I had a college professor tell me about it.
I wish I remembered. Actually, I don't really use it, so I guess it doesn't really, like my knowledge of economics now is like, you remember when you ever seen The Wire?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
part
so
of it, not the entire thing.
if you ever watched season 2 of The Wire, when Stringer Bell, like Idris Elba's character, like starts taking community college classes on economics, and he starts like throwing around like with like all the dope that they're slinging. It's like what we got here is like an inelastic product. Like he just learns like a few like economics buzzwords and just starts like
Yeah.
just dropping that knowledge, and it's just like he's just acting like he's like the big man on campus with his other his cronies and whatnot, just being like, yeah, like I'm all educated now because I learned what an inelastic product is, because people are just addicted to this dope, so they're just gonna pay whatever they want for it. That was a weird analogy for my knowledge of economics. I don't know why I used that.
That's like me and music sometimes, where I would like to think I know some stuff about music, but then I'll go around like an actual musician and say something to them, and then have to remember that they're an actual musician and I'm not. And I'll be around like, oh, that half measure and the what's the BPM of this, and it's like, nah, I should stick in my place talking about the Oakland A's instead of talking to all these musicians. So I feel like a lot of people could relate to that.
I think they can. And if you're out here relating to that, we appreciate you. But speaking of BPM, I want to talk about someone who really raised my heart's BPM. In that it was really exciting baseball to watch. The winner of 3 stars for this episode is Brent Rooker, who I'm actually going to go out here and I'm going to say that he's the captain of the A's. I think it's my turn. You took the words right out of my mouth. And I'm going to say it this time because it's my turn to name a captain, and it's Brent Rooker.
Yeah.
Now, this should come as no surprise because he has been the shining star of this team's offensive resurgence. In 31 plate appearances in his last 7 games, this guy has slashed .462, .548, 1.038 with an OPS of 1.587. I'm going to say that again. That's pretty good. That would lead one to believe that Brent Rooker is actually pretty good at baseball. Now, the one thing that's kind of been Brent Rooker's kryptonite, at least in the last year and some change, he would strike out a lot. Now, he's actually seen the ball reasonably well over the last week. He struck out only 5 times in the last 7 games. He's now up to 9 homers on the season, tied with Shea Langoliers, crushing some hard hit balls and making sliders and sinkers everywhere cower in fear when he steps up to the plate. He has been putting together another all-star resume and should be more deserving of a nod if he manages to keep this up, even a fraction of this up. It is just great to see after what seemed to be a bit of a soft reset for him to start the season. Brent Rooker is here. He's the captain of the A's, the prince who was promised. I think I'm putting my funny ball stamp of captaincy on Brent Rooker.
I approve. Heck yeah. I mean, Brent Rooker's been unbelievable. And it's the only guy in this lineup where when he comes to the plate, I just feel good. I feel good, man, when he's up there right now. And the numbers are crazy. And funny enough, after what some people consider to be a little bit of a fluky all-star appearance last year, I mean, kind of just the one guy from the A's that got named, they had to name someone type of situation. He could have an incredibly earned all-star appearance this year. And I think that'd be a great story and very cool. And the A's have a dude right now.
They got a dude.
Not much more to say.
Yeah, they got a dude, and it's just, they need just somebody to kind of hold it down, and the roster's in a bit like a state of flux right now anyhow, so which actually I think is a good transition to our next thing. So the A's have actually been calling up guys left and right over the last week or so. I'm just going to give a really quick just breakdown of names that they've called up, sent down to AAA, injured list, and all that. So within the last week, they've called up Brett Harris, who's been playing at third base. They called up Osvaldo Bido, a right-hand pitcher with a really funny headshot. I think we'll put that in here.
It's gonna go up right here, right now.
Yeah, it's it looks like if you the way you just when you sent this to me, I think you described it as nobody told Osvaldo Bido that they had actually taken the picture.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, like he's a fine looking dude, but yeah, it just looks like the picture kind of took him off guard a little bit, caught him off guard.
It's not quite like Sam Bradford level of headshot misfortune, but it's an interesting one for sure. A big call up that I thought was also interesting that he wasn't sent back down was Tyler Soderstrom, back from the depths of Las Vegas. He actually
the
saw
prodigal son, man.
He saw a start at first base, and that was pretty cool. We saw Easton Lucas come up for a game, sent down after a game. Did I watch him? Of course I didn't. Shame I missed it, I guess. I don't really care. Daryl Hernandez.
Not too much shame there.
Yeah, I actually don't feel that much shame. And maybe I will in the future, but I don't right now. Daryl Hernandez sent to the injured list. Get well soon. Hogan Harris, he was called up and sent down. And yeah, he had an outing that was so rough that you almost forgot how badly Ross Stripling got his shit rocked. Nick Allen actually hit the injured list. I don't even know if he saw any time in AAA, but now he's just injured. And
we're going to forget about Nick Allen until we have to remember him again, I think.
Yeah. And
like, we're not going to hold a grudge if he's back up. We will talk about him. We'll remember him. But until that happens, I think we're gonna move on mentally. At least I want to. It just feels like I don't know where the path is for him at this point. Because, like, talk about Darrell Hernandez. He was really seeing the ball well, I felt, before he went down.
He was.
Coming up in big spots, too. Had that big single up the middle with 2 men on. Yeah, I just feel like he was seeing the ball well. And then when he does come back, which hopefully isn't too long from now, he'll man shortstop again. And I even feel like Max Schumann's, at this rate, a better option than Nick Allen, because he hasn't had a single play in the field that we've been like, ugh, about. And he's actually played the field quite a bit since coming up. So I unfortunately feel like Nick Allen has lost his, any real spot in this roster, be it the, second infielder on the bench, or let alone starting shortstop, starting second or third baseman. Yeah. Good on Hernandez and Schumann, for that matter, for playing well enough to, I think, make that happen.
No, I totally agree. And I think what we're starting to see now is we're starting to see a bit of like a logjam in the infield, even just at a few of these spots. I mean, Zach Geloff, Miguel Andujar, and Aledmus Diaz are all starting or about to start rehab assignments. I know Zach Geloff is definitely coming back for a second base job, which, shouldn't come as a surprise. But then, that's gonna, you have people like Schumann, who can play a bunch of different spots. You have Toro, who I think is usually playing at second base, but you could probably see some time as a DH as well. And then Hernandez, who seems to have the best defense out of the bunch, really, who's probably going to get the first crack at the shortstop job. I guess Brett Harris hasn't been like crazy exciting at third base, other than when he's been just mashing nothing but dingers and then just striking out otherwise. But and then there's another prospect that I think is going to be really important to watch. He was actually just promoted from AA to AAA.
I'm excited to talk about this guy.
Jacob Wilson is actually the number one prospect for the A's right now, and he's had a meteoric rise through the minor leagues. This guy's actually been slashing 439, 462, 684 between AA and AAA.
Is that good?
I think so. I think that's pretty good. I think, yeah, that's good baseball that he's playing. And what I think has also been impressive is that I don't remember his exact stats, but soon after he was called up to AAA, he did have another solid outing. Like, it seems like he hasn't really skipped a beat in the transition. So he's definitely going to be a name to watch at some point this season to see if he really takes a leap and pushes for some playing time in the infield. He's mostly been seeing time at shortstop, I believe. I know at AAA with the rehab assignment, I know he's been playing next to Zach Geloff.
Yeah.
He's been playing next to Geloff. Geloff's been at second. Jacob Wilson's been at shortstop.
He's actually Jacob Wilson's only played shortstop in his major league professional career, I should say. Okay. He's never played any other. Played a tiny bit of outfield in college for a second, which is funny. But no, I mean, it has to be said, this kid, he had the profile of a almost near generational contact guy coming out of college, but just with zero pop, which is how you can be the number 6 overall pick in an MLB draft while profiling as a no more than 10 home runs a year type guy. But yeah, I mean, people knew what they were talking about. Scouts knew what they were talking about with his hit tool and the contact tool. He's a career 383 hitter in the minors. That's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
So, and he's also got a reputation, like, I'll be the first to say, I have not watched a ton of Jacob Wilson tape on end and seen all the mundane plays, the boring plays. I only kind of know the highlights and the stats that we have. But by all accounts, he's a good shortstop, and I don't think they would be developing him as a shortstop alone and giving him so much time at shortstop if they didn't think that he had, a good enough glove to do that. So, yeah, talking about Darrell Hernandez, who knows? Maybe the end of the year shortstop's Jacob Wilson. He's already 22, coming out of college. So it's not like that'd be a even crazy, unprecedented thing, especially with Wyatt Langford already up and Paul Skeens just made his debut. Like, we're starting to see guys from that class come up already, too. So,
well, the other thing is that Darrell Hernandez has the ability to shift to other spots, too. So, I mean, I think there's even a universe where Darrell Hernandez maybe gets moved over to third. Maybe they feel like that's a better spot for him as well.
And if we want to be honest, too, like, Darrell Hernandez is... I'm never going to get too excited, at least this year, about him being the starting anything, because the glove's great and he was looking a lot better. And I'd be excited to see if he can continue to develop as a hitter. But that dude's a solid, like, first infielder off the bench type guy, playing maybe starting 1 out of every 3 games. But a guy that you can plug in for defensive substitution, or even a guy for speed on the bags if you need a pinch runner. Like, I just think he's a really cool bench guy that you can get really excited, even on a good team, about him being on your bench. And we'll see there. But I think that's what he ends up being in his Major League Baseball career, is just a really awesome guy off the bench, and maybe in a couple situations getting some good starting reps. But all that to say, if that's the guy coming off the bench, then we're happy. That's a really good mold of a guy to have there.
I got a question for you, though.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the jobs at first base and third base are still up for grabs?
I think I think the first base job is... to me, it's good that you lump them both, because they might be. I mean, no one's played good defense at either consistently, other than Nevin, I feel like, at first. And I think eventually they're going to settle into Nevin at first going forward. I just think defensively he's been too good over there compared to third base. And just solid. I feel like he makes every play. I can't think of a really poor play he's made out there recently. And I know JD Davis has been getting time out there. I do not like JD Davis at first. If you showed me the stats, I bet they'd back it up. But just the eye test, I feel like I've just seen him make way too many, errors, drop balls, whatever. So, yeah, I would like to see JD Davis more at third base and Nevin at first going forward here. And there's a world here. JD Davis, after starting out as the hottest hitter on the team, has not been hot for a good chunk of time now, with injuries mixed in there, of course. So he's going to have a little pressure where if he's not hitting, I mean, that guy's not good enough defensively to warrant playing time going forward, so we'll see. I do think third base might be a bit more open, because at the very least, Nevin's going to get his appearances somewhere, and I think he's going to get him at first. So all that to say, I think Brett Harris has a real shot if he continues to hit, because his defenses look good enough to potentially man that spot moving forward. We'll see.
I also think it's going to be interesting to see if Soderstrom makes a push at first.
Yeah, good point. I should have mentioned his name too. I just think that Nevin's going to get his play appearances one way or the other, as he should. He very well earned for a while that chance that he's going to get. And I just think he's looked abysmal at third versus first this year. So it is unfortunate for Soderstrom, where, let's say Nevin was looking really good defensively at third this year, I'd be clamoring for Soderstrom first base appearances and letting JD ride the pine a bit, or getting his DH. And total off topic, we won't need to get into it right now. I wish Rooker could play the field a bit more often, because it's hurting what the A's are able to do with McCann at DH, as well as with JD Davis, or forcing him in the field. I feel like a bit more than they'd want to right now. So yeah, I think that's the next step for Rooker, is like maybe being able to play left and right field a bit more often. We'll see. But yeah, first and third, I think Nevin first, and Brett Harris, I'd love to see get a shot right now at third.
Yeah, and I think he will for the time being. I mean,
Yeah.
really, like the shuffling is going to start beginning when Geloff gets back, which I guess is kind of soon, and if and probably when Jacob Wilson makes his debut, that's going to really shake things up the infield as well.
Oof. You just got me pretty excited. Hearing Jacob Wilson makes his debut, man. That's gonna be exciting. I mean, he's hitting 286 right now after 3 games in AAA, so a nothing sample size. But the guy doesn't strike out. He's had 219 plate appearances in the minors, 22 strikeouts. Um, that's absurd. And in college, he struck out even less. In college, he struck out 31 times in 697 plate appearances and walked 61 times. So, if you want to talk about a master of the zone and just plate discipline, and again, master of his craft, just someone who, by experience and dedication, passion for just hitting, like you don't get to become a type of hitter like him and the Luis Arias mold, essentially, of hitter. You don't get to be that type of guy without, putting in your 10,000 hours plus. So excited to watch him and just all that come to Oakland at some point soon.
Agreed. Well,
anything else? What else you got?
I got nothing else in terms of the new guys. Do you have anything else you want to pass that to you?
We have something here that we were considering talking about. I think that we should postpone that for the next one because nothing's gonna change between now and the next time we record.
Okay.
And I think we've given the people
that
enough to chew on. I feel like we've talked about a fair amount here.
Yeah. I kind of. Yeah, let's talk about that thing. I know what thing you're talking about. We'll say
that for thing.
Yeah, that thing that we talked about. This is Chekhov's thing that we're doing right here. Chekhov's thing is going to come up in the next episode, but I think
we're gonna hold that thing for later.
Yeah, we're gonna hold it somewhere.
I do have one thing before we go. That's not that thing, but a different thing that we're not gonna talk about. But I just wanted to mention what a play by the ball boy on that first Marlins game. I'm trying to remember who hit it, but there's a ball boy made a diving grab for the A's. Probably the best play made by anyone wearing an A's uniform that day.
Yeah, that guy laid out for that. Laid out, did a roll and everything. It was sick. That guy earned his stars for that.
We need to find that guy and get him on here. We'll see. But other than that, I had in triple bold, almost bigger than any other letters on my page of notes. Seth Brown should not be swinging 3-0 under any circumstances. So I'm happy that we got to that. And other than that, yeah, I'm good. I feel good about this team. And the fact that this was a pretty rough stretch when you look at wins and losses and just how bad the pitching was at times. But then you look and it's we scored 11 runs in a loss. We scored 9 runs one time. We lost a really close game another time. Coming into the year, we weren't sure if this team was winning even 55 games or anything like that. So the fact that our issues are now we're scoring a lot of runs, but the pitching has been rough lately. The fact that we could even analyze and dissect this team while keeping a straight face is such a win in my book. And it makes me just excited to see what happens going forward here. And no matter how many bad things we might say about players on this team or the team in general, make no mistake, speaking for myself and pretty sure I'm speaking for both of us, we are stoked with how well this team's playing.
No, I know. The funny thing is, when you approached me about making this pod, we saw it as a comedy podcast. And while I think it still, at a certain extent, is, I think we have some silly bits with our analysis, of course. We are just kind of floored with how this season has played out thus far, and I definitely didn't expect to be hovering around 500 at this point of the year. I figured maybe they would have cracked double digits in the win column at this point in the year. Maybe.
Yeah.
And just to think that they're actually not the worst in the AL West. I mean, not saying much because the AL West is kind of doo-doo so far this year anyway, but just to see some really exciting stuff. There's solid players. There's young players who are making some noise in this league, and then there's we're talking about guys who could potentially have all-star bids. I think that's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, totally. And like, yeah, I mean, we definitely, I'm happy you brought this up. We thought this team would literally be at a point in terms of performance where like we'd have to keep it light and we'd have to go out of our way to keep it light. And maybe not everything is like super serious, as you mentioned. And I feel like it would be just such a knock on this team, and this team doesn't deserve like a podcast out there that's talking about their plan on the field that isn't really going into it, analyzing it, and taking it seriously, because they're a nearly 500 team that to me lost some close ones that could have gone the other way. They could just as easily be an over 500 team. So yeah, I think our little benchmark, however percentage of the way through the season we are, our takeaway, or at least mine, is this team not bad at all.
Definitely not that bad. The A's are going to finish out a 3-game series against the Seattle Mariners on the road, and then they are taking their talents to Minute Maid Park. I believe that's the park. That's still the name of the park in Houston, because they're playing the Houston Astros in a 4-game series on the road, and that series will conclude on May 16th, which is a Thursday. So that's will be
a huge series. Like, with how poorly, like if the A's were to go into Minute Maid and like take 3 out of 4 and like make the gap that much wider, like it becomes realer that the A's could finish above the Astros, is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
The Astros might actually have to hit the panic button after that, if that happens.
We'll see. That would be like, just for the culture, I would love to see like the Astros like be put in a position where they're like, damn, we are 7-8 games behind the Oakland A's right now. Like, what do we do?
Jeremy Pena in the locker room, like we talked about.
Exactly.
He started as a joke, and then now it's like, guys, it was a joke.
Guys, it was a joke. Do I actually have to become the captain of the Astros now and like self-anointed? But yeah, we'll see. But I'm excited to talk about it, and even more to watch it, to be honest. It's gonna be fun.
Definitely. And we know you'll be watching too. Thanks so much again for tuning into Funny Ball. I'm Will. This is Trevor. We'll see you next time.